Have you heard the term Ramageddon or Rampocalypse lately? If not, you haven't been paying attention. Basically, what that refers to is the fact that DDR5 RAM has skyrocketed over the last couple of months, I guess. There are reasons for that, but we're not going to discuss that in this video. So basically what I'm going to do in this video is show you how you can mitigate that by building an older generation PC. You can go high-end if you want to, or you can just go, in this case, I'm building a bench PC for testing, troubleshooting, things of that nature. So not going to be gaming, not going to be overclocking, not going to be any of that, but it's a lot more affordable. And when I say an older generation, right now the current generation for the AMD processors are AM5, and the motherboards that support the AM5 processor also support DDR5 RAM. So if you go back a generation to the AM4 CPUs, you can get yourself a relatively affordable motherboard like this MSI Mag B550 Tomahawk Max Wi-Fi. I think I paid about 159 bucks for it. A AM4 chip, which is the Ryzen 7 5800 XT, which was just right around 200 bucks plus or minus, I can't recall exactly. And then basically I have RAM, but you can DDR4 RAM, which is what this motherboard supports. It supports DDR4 RAM and it supports the AM4 chipset. So some of this stuff I bought, some of it I scavenged or cannibalized other machines, but essentially you can do this a lot cheaper than going out and buying DDR5 RAM with an AM4 motherboard, AM4 chip. Again, is the DDR5, the newer stuff, faster, better, higher quality for the most part? Yes, but if you're buying high-end AM4 stuff, it's a marginal difference, and you probably wouldn't notice it unless you had two systems running side by side. At any rate, let's go ahead and get this underway. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and release put the CPU in, so I need to release the ARM on the SAM. And basically, you need to make sure that your CPU lines up properly. I don't know if you can see this or not, but if you look, you basically have a triangle, 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 square, and on the CPU you have the same thing. You have a triangle, 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 square. This will only fit in one way without you forcing it and breaking it and possibly ruining your motherboard, chip, all that stuff. So make sure you have it placed in, set up correctly when you place it in there, and it should slide in without a problem. It should be a little bit loose, and then you'll go ahead and pull the arm for the SAM, which tightens it and holds it in place. So that's step one. Next one is RAM. So again, we said we're not going to be leveraging DDR5 RAM. Well, this motherboard doesn't support it, so that's perfect for us. Basically, DDR5 RAM, DDR4 RAM, DDR3 are not interchangeables, even physically. You'll have slots on your RAM, and DDR3 is at a different location. Physically, DDR5 is a different location. So if you tried putting DDR5 RAM in a DDR4 slot, DIMM slot, it would not fit. You could force it and probably ruin your RAM and your DIMM slot, ergo your motherboard, and there goes your computer. So just be cognizant of that. Make sure that if you're going with a motherboard that's DDR4 compatible, you have RAM. But in this case, that's the point. So you don't have to go buy DDR5 RAM. So you're going back a generation, again, sort of reiterating, going back a generation to the AM4 chipset that supports DDR4 RAM. So, in all their infinite wisdom, I'm not sure why they do this. Logically, you would think that you would leverage the first two DIMM slots if you have two sticks of RAM. Well, they don't do it that way. The motherboard manufacturers don't do it that way. These are dual channel RAM motherboards and DIMM slots and RAM. So what you want to do is you're going to have an A and a B1 and an A and a B2. Instead of being A1 and B1, for some reason the manufacturers of the motherboard recommend A2 and B2. So we're going to go ahead and push this in the slot, making sure that the groove on the fits in, and you're going to push this down together and you'll hear it snap into place. You'll do the same with the second RAM stick. Line it up, push them in place, snap. And that's all there is to it. The big thing is just make sure you're using the correct RAM as far as DDR3, 4, and 5 based on what motherboard you're purchasing. The next step would be we need to give it some storage so we can put an OS on it for utilization. We're going to go ahead and remove this heat sink slash cover, and basically it's just unscrew this top part. And I've got a 2 terabyte Western Digital, actually it's not a Western Digital, excuse me, it's a Samsung SSD, an NVMe, and that's all I had laying around, and so I'm going to go ahead and use this even though it's overkill for what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and, there's only one way that can go in. Again, there's a groove in the M.2 slot, so we'll put that in place, and then we'll, if you didn't have a cover or heat sink, you would basically hold this down and screw it in. But since I do, we're going to go ahead and put this back together in the same way we took it apart, hopefully. And while we're talking about this, again, we're not going to be overclocking or gaming with this. So, I mean, again, this 2 terabyte hard drive is way overkill. The chipset's probably about right. It's a, like I say, it's not gonna be a barn burner by any stretch, but a Ryzen 7 5800 XT is perfectly capable of doing what we want it to do. We want it to be utilitarian, so we can do troubleshooting, we can test hardware, download applications, test things of that nature. So, at any rate, that's the bulk of it. We're going to go ahead and use the actual CPU cooler that came with the CPU, and I'm going to, basically you've got these 2 clips on the bottom side of that is the, I guess, the retaining or the back plate for the motherboard. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to take these retaining clips on each side of the CPU cooler, snap them in place, and then we'll go ahead and pull this lever, which will tighten it into place, and then we'll just plug this in to the, if you can see that or not, this will go into the motherboard, into the fan power supply. So yeah, that's one side is clipped in. We'll get the other side lined up in place. Okay, they're both in place, and now we'll go ahead and take this retaining clip, or I'm not sure, I guess a tensioner, which will actually snap this tight into place. And there we go. Then the last part we have on this would be to take the fan power supply and plug it into the appropriate plug over here. And that's your bare bones. So, and here's a completed project we're just working on. Note, to get this to view on the monitor, I needed to put a discrete video card in it, as the motherboard does have onboard graphics, an HDMI display port. However, you have to have a compatible processor, and in this case, the Ryzen 7 5800 XT is not one, so we can't actually use the onboard graphics in this case. So the final test would be, did it post? And there we go. So there you have it. This is the completion. We've got a post, which means the next thing we need to do is just put an operating system on the hard drive, and we'll call this good. Hope you enjoyed this and found it informational. If you did, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support.